Jesus said, "It is as if a man going on a journey summoned his slaves and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and another to 1, each according to his ability." Now, because this story always occurs at this time of the year, we often want to equate it with stewardship and fundraising, and we want to tell people how much money a talent is, which in those days was equal to about 15 years of salary at a day laborer's job. It was a lot of money. And so we say that God has entrusted us with a whole lot of stuff, a whole lot of money. But I really don't think that Jesus' parable is about money at all. It has to do a lot with the gifts God has given us. And I don't even think the parable is about the slave who got the 5 talents or the slave who got the 2 talents. I think the story is about the third slave who only got 1 talent. Because if you divide the story up in who gets the most interest in this story, it's the slave with the 1 talent. Because he takes that talent and he doesn't do anything with it. The first slave who has 5 talents, and the second slave who has 2 talents, basically do the same thing. They invest the money, they double their money, and everybody's happy. But the third slave has 1 talent, and he doesn't know what to do with it. He's afraid to take it and invest it. As he tells his master, "I was afraid of you. I was afraid to do something with it. So I just held on to it closely and held on to it till you came back. Then I can give you back what was yours." Well, I wonder sometimes if this parable has nothing to do with money, but it has to do with us as people. I think it has to do with the fact that God gives us not talents, but He gives us opportunities. We have abilities. We have the ability to do this or do that. Some of us can draw and paint. I'm always amazed at someone who can sit down and look at a block of marble and then take a hammer and chisel and create a great masterpiece out of that. I just find that mysterious that they can do that. I'm envious of people who can sit down at a piano and play beautiful tunes, because I don't have that talent. I can't do that. So I'm amazed at people who can. Or people who have sports talents. I mean, who could hit a little round hoop with a basketball from 50 feet away. Or in baseball can hit a little tiny ball like this with a stick and punch it 400 and some odd feet out over a center field wall. That's a talent people have. Some of us have talents for writing. Some of us have talents for working with our hands. Some of us have talents for working with other people. We all have talents. And the point of the story is, whether you have 5 talents or 2 talents or only 1 talent, you still have gifts that God has given you. And I think the point of the story is that God asks us to take whatever it is we have and use it in some way. To go out and risk using it, to go out and risk losing it. But I think the point of the story is, even if we risk, we're not going to lose what we already have. So sometimes I think we have to be risk-taking people. We have to risk with our lives sometimes. We have to discover what talent we have and then use it. What God-given abilities we have and use them. We may not be as good as this person over there or seemingly as talented as that person over there, but each of us is unique and we have our own talents and our own gifts. And I think God expects us to use those. But sometimes, like that third slave, we're fearful about that. We're afraid to go out and use them. Maybe we're afraid of losing money. Maybe if we're not going to make enough money and we're going to be out on the street. Or maybe we're not willing to risk being in love with someone because we've tried that before and it's been rejected or squashed or stomped on and we've been hurt. And we don't want to take the risk of being hurt again. Or maybe sometimes it's learning to trust somebody. And we've trusted somebody before, and that trust has been violated. And we all know that once a trust has been violated, it's very, very difficult to rebuild that trust with someone. It's very, very difficult. Maybe we fear rejection. We're not going to try to get to know somebody or enter into a relationship with somebody because we're afraid that they're going to reject us. We think we're not good enough for them. And we see this all the time with people's relationship with God. They want a relationship with God, but they think, well, I'm not worthy for God to take me in and love me. And the whole story of the Bible from Genesis to Revelation says that's not the way God works. And even if you only have one talent, you're worth something to God, and you're infinitely worth something. Maybe we're afraid to take the risk because we don't want to be ridiculed. Maybe we're afraid to take the risk for the gospel because we don't want people to say, well, you know, he's just some kind of religious nut or Jesus freak or something like that, so we're not going to pay any attention to him. Or maybe we're afraid to risk because it may cause us some pain somewhere, not necessarily physical pain, but emotional pain. And again, we're just maybe afraid to take that step. So we take that talent that God has given us and we hold it close to ourselves and we don't do anything with it. Except when God comes, we give it back. But God will say, what did you do with the gift I gave you? What did you do with that gift of life that I gave you? What did you do with those talents and abilities that I gave you? Whether they were much or few, you should have done something with them. But I think at the end of the story, I think what we end up hearing is that if we invest ourselves in God, if we're willing to take the risk, then we really cannot fail. If we're willing to take what God gives us and use it in some way, we will be successful in that area. We may not be successful as the world counts success, but as Christians we're called to try to find out what God means by success. Maybe what God means by success is in whatever state we're in, high, low, in the middle, we take what we have been given and try to use that for the benefit of other people and the glory of God. So whether we have 5 talents or 2 talents or only 1 talent, we should not measure ourselves by other people. If I have only 1 talent, if I measure myself against Donna who has 5 talents, then I'm going to feel inferior. But God says, you have a great talent that I can take and use for the betterment of the world. Take that 1 talent and use it and be successful. And let you also hear what God says to the 5 talent and 2 talent person. Well done, good and faithful servant. So you may think you're the 3rd servant, but you can still be as successful, as influential, and you can still be a winner like the